When I was in seventh grade, I found out that my mom's brother and my uncle was homeless, and we flew to Los Angeles, and that trip changed my life. In that 2-day visit, I saw that my Uncle Jay had built a community. Everyone we ran into knew his name, but they knew his personality. They knew that he was funny and witty and sarcastic and into pop culture and obsessed with his sneakers. And what I saw in that trip was that he was really known. And he had been homeless at that point for about 7 or 8 years, but his quality of life day to day was really influenced by others seeing him for who he was. And when I returned home, I thought about how there are so many people in my community, in the world as a whole, who are really passionate about doing what they can to help people who are homeless. A lot of times we want to volunteer at a soup kitchen or donate to a third party organization or do something else to help the issue. Now, here's the thing. How often have you ever been walking and you see someone who is unsheltered and unhoused on the street, and you choose to cross the street because you are somewhat in you a little bit uncertain for your own safety? How many times have you seen someone on the street and you choose not to say hi? You choose not to smile. You look the other way. What does that say about our ability to ever make progress on this issue? What does that say about our chances at really truly eradicating homelessness one day? So, with my sister, I co founded a nonprofit organization called Living Outside, and I aim to do exactly that. I aim to help people make a slightly different choice. And my uncle was really influenced by people who saw him and chose to acknowledge his dignity, his personhood, his humanity. And what we do at Living Outside is we put together care bags full of everyday supplies, small luxuries alike. And what those care bags are is they are an opportunity for a conversation. So, more than the supplies they contain, we hope that every volunteer who makes a care bag with us is going to take that care bag and put it in their car, take it with them to work, take it on a walk with them to school. And whenever they see someone in need, they now have an opportunity for an interaction that they might not have had. They can say, "Hi, my name is Bella. I'm offering you this care bag. Is there anything else I can get you? I hope you have a great day." And then a week later, if they see the same person, they can say, "Hey, I remember your name. Is there anything else I can do for you? Would you want to have a conversation and get to know each other?" And little by little, those relationships that we can create, neighbors that they are, and as human beings who deserve to be seen and recognized. And so, what I hope that you think about when you think about homelessness specifically, but also global challenges more generally, is that a lot of times things can be really complicated at first. It can be really overwhelming to think about the fact that there are 150 million people globally without a home. However, solutions don't need to be complicated, they don't need to be expensive, they don't need to be impossible to actually see out. Oftentimes, it is just as simple as choosing to make a different choice. Choosing to look and smile and wave when that isn't your gut reaction. And so, if you are passionate about any global issue that exists, I encourage you to think about, what can I do on a small scale? Because here's the thing, when you think about what you can do on a small scale, that's when people are going to be interested in joining. When they realize that it doesn't take anything. Yes, I would love for you to hand out a care bag, but at the end of the day, the only thing that I'm asking of you is to smile. Is to wave, is to tell someone your name and to remember their name. That takes no money, that takes no time, that takes no effort, and it makes a world of a difference. And so, in thinking about how we can embody this sentiment in other things, I think it's really important to think about, how can we make sure that we are interacting with the people that we hope to help. And so often, people who are want to make a difference in eradicating homelessness fail to talk to people who are homeless, fail to talk to people who are living outside, as my Uncle Jay called it. And to me, that's an issue because we can never truly understand a problem without living it. And our only hope of ever making true progress is by working together with those who are experiencing it firsthand. One more idea that I want to add quickly is that it is so important to make sure that people who are often receiving aid get an opportunity to give aid at some point. And so, what we really love to do at Living Outside is give someone multiple care bags. And that way, if they have any friends, family who would also be interested, they now have an opportunity to be generous, right? My uncle, his entire day was full of him receiving aid, and for him to have the opportunity to make someone else's day a little bit brighter and experience that serotonin boost, that is really powerful. And so I encourage you all in whatever you are doing to change the world, keep doing it. Think about how if the world feels overwhelming and like you can't make a difference, I promise that you can, and it starts small. Because once you start small and you start talking to people who are going through it, and you start thinking about how can I make sure that they have an opportunity to pass forward the generosity that I am bringing to the table, that is when true progress is going to happen. So, thank you all for listening. Please remember that just as I met my Uncle Jay and I noticed that people saw him for who he was, how can you see someone else for who they are? How can you acknowledge them? And how can you make sure that in your community you are being a neighbor, a person of support, and a resource for those who are unhoused?